In today's gaming world, first-person shooters and retro throwbacks are the new trendy thing. A lot of the popular first-person shooters nowadays are either lumped into the modern military shooter category, such as Call of Duty or Battlefield, or games that try to harken back to a simpler time, such as Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, Wolfenstein The New Order, or Duke Nukem Forever. Today I wanted to talk about a game that is pure old-school FPS, that doesn't add any of the filler that's in today's first-person shooters, and also has its own unique identity. Today, I am reviewing the old-school first-person shooter, Wrack. Well, technically. The game I'm going to be reviewing is the Steam Public Access version. While I've played a bit of the final release, I thought it'd be cool to show and review Wrack when it was still a work in progress. The stuff you're about to see does not represent the final product. The game that's out on Steam right now added a lot of new content. New gun models were put in, new music, a secondary fire button was added that utilized your combo streak. Don't worry, I'll get to how the combo system works later. Better looking menus, and the art and the story cutscenes have been prettied up, plus the work in progress art was finally put in the game's storyline. Another thing to mention before I continue, you're gonna see some pretty slow gameplay footage, but it's not the game's fault, or even the fault of it being in public access. That's my fault, because my old laptop isn't what it used to be, and trying to record all of the footage for this wasn't pretty. Trust me, the game doesn't require crisis levels of PC specs in order for it to run. Any PC that's been upgraded slightly should run this game perfectly. And despite not being able to run completely smoothly, I still had a lot of fun with this game, both public access and final release-wise. With all of that being said, allow me to share my opinions on this game. Wrack takes place on Earth in the year 2050. There is no war, no poverty, and no political strife. Thanks to the Hyperion generator, which can create anything out of pure energy and was created 13 years ago by Ostron Research Incorporated, the world has turned into a happier and better place. But one day, things go completely awry. Aliens from an unknown planet start to attack a research facility, and worse yet, teamed up with a scientist that can make savage robots. It's up to the soldier Kane to deal with the alien and robot threat. With no backup, he has to go in and save the world by himself. The story, while not the most original, is pretty good. It doesn't try to make any statements, or be a parody of anything. It's just simply there to progress the game and have a laugh. The characters are likable, the dialogue is funny, and fits well in the crazy and frantic world of Wrack. Wrack is more akin to the old-school shooters like Doom and Duke Nukem 3D, and less like the shooters we have today, such as Far Cry 3 and Call of Duty. The game is comprised of 10 levels, and each level has enemies to frag, treasures to find, and switches to press. While the first level is simple, the rest of the stages are all like a maze. Some levels are even blocked by barricades, and the only way to unlock them is to visit a specific path of a level and press a switch. There are secrets to be found as well, which award you with either extra ammo, armor, or even money. Yeah, I'll get to that part in a bit. There's even a secret level that you can access by pressing hidden switches scattered across one level. Now that is freaking cool. The last time a first-person shooter did this was Quake 2, so it's cool to see this concept make a comeback after being absent all these years. Every 2 to 3 levels, there's a boss fight waiting for you, and these boss fights are similar to the classics in the arcade. You dodge enemy projectiles, hide from hard-to-evade attacks, and use jumping and ducking. It's pattern memorizing at its finest, and gives the game some variety. Speaking of projectiles and evading, the maneuverability of your character is awesome. You're fast and agile, a clear as day difference between this game and the other shooters of today. A lot of the enemies in the game either have projectile weapons or rush you. A lot of damage in the game can be easily avoided by sidestepping, jumping, or circle strafing. While the enemies have easy to avoid attacks, not all of them are pushovers. You'll find some enemies with scatter blaster projectiles, and there's even one enemy type in the game that has a railgun style weapon that'll catch you off guard if you're not quick enough. Aside from all of the enemies, the levels also have dangerous hazards in them. You'll have to jump over lava pits, toxic waste, and avoid ceiling crushers. There's also booby-trapped crates that you'll find later on in the game, as well as trap bombs in midair. If all of this sounds hard, don't worry, it's really not. There are health and armor pickups scattered throughout the level, and if you're using a controller, there is a hard lock-on that you can use, and that can help you if you're having trouble fighting the more hard-to-hit enemies. Like I mentioned earlier, there's huge sacks of gold to pick up, and those increase your score. That's right, this game keeps score! There's a scoring system in this game, and you increase that score by killing enemies and collecting bags of gold or statues that are scattered across the level. Earn enough points, and you gain an extra life. Whenever you lose a life, you restart from the last checkpoint you activated, and if you lose all your lives, then it's game over. When you finish a level, you see how well you did and are ranked for your performance. So for all those that enjoy Iron Man runs, this is the game for you. If not, then don't worry, you can use quick saves to pick up where you left off. There's also another way to increase your score, and that's the combo counter. After you kill a certain amount of enemies in a fast amount of time, you start a combo meter, and this meter can be increased the more kills you net, although you do have to be fast in order to increase your combo meter. The combo meter further increases the amount of points you earn, so go nuts and kill fast. There are also power-ups that can help you out, such as the Doom Sphere, which gives you a boost in damage, or the Blast Shield, which can only be attained through the secret level, but will allow you to rocket jump without taking a lot of damage. Finally, we get to the weapons. You'll find your standard weapons such as the pistol and shotgun, but you can also find the pulsar rifle, which is a gun that shoots out hot plasma at a really high rate. If you run out of ammo, you can always fall back on your hyperblade. Ah yeah, you don't start the game with a knife, rusty axe, or your bare fist, but a kick-ass longsword of the future. Each weapon is fun to use, and when you play the final release of the game, you'll be able to use a special attack after you've gained a certain amount of kills in your combo meter. The graphics are amazing. Visually speaking, the game has a very cool comic book feeling to it. The story's characters all have a unique look, and the enemy designs are equally as impressive. My particular favorite designs are all of the enemy robots you encounter throughout the game. The graphics are all cel-shaded, and it looks absolutely fantastic. Throughout the review, you've seen the game with all of the bells and whistles turned off, and even with all of it turned off, it still looks pretty impressive. If you plan on playing the game, however, you should at least check out the lighting and bloom effects, because they add to the strong sci-fi atmosphere. The sound is good as well. A lot of the weapons sound like they have massive punch to them, and makes you feel incredibly satisfied whenever you fire your gun, or swing your badass sword of the future. The music also deserves some recognition. Throughout this review, you've been listening to portions of the soundtrack, and all of the music was composed by Bobby Price, which should sound familiar if you grew up during the age of Apogee games. He is the one responsible for the soundtracks to Doom, Commander Keen, and even some of the tracks for Duke Nukem 3D. The soundtrack has a very techno feel to it, and it fits into Wrack perfectly. The only problem I had with this game is that it's pretty short. The default game can be beaten in a few hours if you know what you're doing. While there are additional modes, such as a score attack and time attack mode, there is no multiplayer component. The game does come with a level editor, so hopefully that will keep people like me, who are waiting for a teased Act 2, occupied. As for the final release, the only problem I had with it was that a lot of the art still looked unfinished. There are plenty of cutscene images that have the line art done, but are missing the color. Hopefully the creators of Wrack will fix this little problem. Despite the short length of the single-player campaign, and not being able to run it incredibly well, I still had fun with this one. It's a fair, easy to pick up and play, arcade-style first-person shooter. The whole game doesn't take itself seriously. The gameplay is tough in some parts, but never impossible, and it's just a blast to play through. So if you're up for a good old fast-paced time, check out Wrack. It's available on Steam, Desura, and Gamersgate.